Welcome to Sunday Nation. Lena Nichols just turned 90 years old. A long journey from the state of Arkansas to Detroit and now in the city of Westland, where she is a member of the DEI Commission. And we're happy to have her in studio here. I want to begin by saying happy birthday.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
You know, as we were talking before we came on the air, just listening to your story, I want you to share with our viewers in terms of just, you're 90 years old, but you've had quite a long life, a remarkable career. You look younger than 90.
Well, thank you.
You told me you drove yourself here to the studio. But let's begin. Tell us about your life coming out of Arkansas.
Okay, I was born in Arkansas, the last of 5 children born to Olivia and Deala Higgins. We lived on a farm. I always credit the high school where I went, Piney Woods Country Life School in Mississippi, with getting me out of the cotton fields. I picked cotton when I was little, and I enjoyed my life. My parents were industrious, but they were poor. But we were raised in a Christian home and had to go to church every Sunday. And I appreciate my upbringing because it prepared me for when I got married and moved to Michigan. My husband was working at Chrysler, and he would be laid off 2 or 3 months out of the year. So I learned how to cook beans every way you can cook them. In fact, people requested my beans sometimes. So that's about.
And I want to stay with Arkansas for a minute,
Okay.
because it's so significant in the entire conversation about Black history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm reading a biography right now about John Johnson, the late publisher of Jet and Ebony magazine, came out of Arkansas. And so many other folk. And what was that climate like for you, born and being raised in Arkansas?
Mm-hmm. We went to a segregated school. We had to walk 3 miles to school.
Right.
And we didn't know we were poor, really. And we didn't know things were as bad as they were.
Right.
I visited my godmother, who worked for a millionaire, and he told me, this millionaire told me, if you would get your dad to move back on my place, I would buy you every color dress there is. I went home and told Daddy this because that was exciting. Daddy said, and you tell him, if I stay on my own place, which I'm buying, I'll buy you every color dress there is. So we were, and this man's daughter used to take me into town with her children. And we would go in the drugstore and order ice cream. And we would sit at the table in the drugstore and eat the ice cream. On Saturday, Black folks who were Negroes at the time went to town. And I went in the same drugstore to buy some ice cream. And they told me I couldn't buy it there, go in the back. And I went on in the back because I thought that was all right. Then I went back to the seat that I had sat on earlier that week, and they said, you can't sit here. That really hurt my feelings because I had sat there with this white lady and her children. So I got a taste of segregation early in life.
Yeah. And you went to Philander?
I went to Philander Smith College in Little Rock, Arkansas. And my roommate's husband, he became a husband later, worked at the state press for Daisy Bates. And he was a decoy for the Little Rock 9 who went to Central High School in Little Rock. And of course I was at Philander, and that was at the high school.
Quite interesting about Daisy Bates and the Arkansas State Press. A lot of story there. And but let's talk about, so you moved from Arkansas to Mississippi.
No, I didn't move. I went to a boarding school in Mississippi.
Boarding school in Mississippi, what was that experience for you?
Oh, that I credit Piney Woods with getting me out of the cotton field. And it was a beautiful experience.
Right.
You could learn, you had to learn to do at least one thing other than the book education.
Right.
And I worked in the sewing room. And you could work.
As a seamstress.
Yes, you could work in the sewing room, and we would alter or mend the boys' football uniforms and things like that. And we made curtains for the campus, for the dormitories. And it was a beautiful life. You could work in the kitchen, you could work in the office. Piney Woods was supported by donations. And you could learn all kind of office machines, how to operate office. They had a mimeographing machine, which would be comparable to our computers now.
So when you left down south and you came to Detroit, 1952.
Okay, I went to Philander Smith College, which is an HBCU. And I got married. I was at Philander 2 years, and I got married and came to Michigan with my husband.
And what was that like for you moving here in 52?
Well, I thought moving north, everything was going to be all right.
You felt you were escaping the cruelty of the South?
Yes. But when I got to Michigan, I found out there was a doctor, a dentist named Colton MacArthur on Griswold in Detroit, and I needed to go to the dentist. They had colored waiting room and white waiting room in the city of Detroit in 1952. And I just couldn't believe that. I knew that happened in Arkansas, but I thought Michigan was a little different. But, and they had a railroad track through almost every town, even in Michigan. And the black folks lived on one side of the track and the white folks lived on the other side of the track, which was no more than what I had been used to in Arkansas.
So you basically, it's almost as if you were reliving your life all over again here in the North.
And many black people in Michigan they were, I say brainwashed into believing they were free, but you weren't really free. And they had segregated schools. And the funny part about Michigan, when the black folks moved into a community, the white folks moved out.
White flight.
Yes. And I saw that in Detroit. But then in 57, I moved out to Westland. And it wasn't Westland then. We named it Westland after, I guess, late 57. It was Nankin Township. And Dearborn Heights bought a portion of, they became a city. And they took a portion of Inkster. And the people in Westland thought that our area was going to be taken up by Inkster, so we voted to become a city.
When you moved there, were there many black folks there?
In my community, it was all black.
It was all black?
It was a beautiful community called Annapolis Park Subdivision. And only black people. We had about 2 integrated couples, but other than that, we were all black. One of the nicest neighborhoods, and it still is.
And you're still there. So let me, I know you worked also for the automotive industry. You worked for Ford Motor Company.
I hired in Ford Motor Company in 57. And I worked 29 years and 2 months. I hired in on the assembly line, and I was blessed to be there at a time when black got to be beautiful. And if a manager hired a black female, he got counted double for integration purposes. And I was black and I was female. So I had 3 major jobs in 1 year. Got off the assembly line, got on inspection and quality control, became a product process analyst, and traveled for the company, going to all of the Ford plants, which I really enjoyed doing. And many times I had a chance to tell my story. One interesting thing, when I hired in at Ford, a man named Mr. Wessinger had heard of Daisy Bates and the Little Rock Nine. So he asked me about that. And because I knew Mrs. Bates, I was glad to tell him.
It's such an amazing story because Daisy Bates' story is so known around the country. And a lot of people are aware of that, of course, a pioneer of the black press and the importance of black institutions. So at Ford Motor Company for almost 3 decades.
I was blessed, and I talk a lot, so I had a chance to meet people.
Yeah.
But I ran into some problems. For example, I went to Kansas City assembly plant for Ford, and the plant manager was, they had had a problem with our parts, and I was in quality control.
Right.
So this man said that Ford hadn't responded. My plant hadn't responded. And I said, well, I beg your pardon, maybe I was misinformed from my management.
Right.
So he said, well, they didn't respond. I said, well, my understanding is you had this problem on your number 3 shift last night, and I had just bought a Rolex watch, so I looked at this watch purposely, and I said, and it's 1 o'clock now, and I'm here. He said, well, Ford doesn't respond. I looked at my hand. I said, oh, is it because they sent me? You're saying they didn't respond? And he, oh, no, no, no. To see this man turn red in my face was almost hilarious.
Right. Yeah.
But he did.
Wow.
And then when I called my plant to tell them, they said, well, how much money do we owe them to sort?
Right.
I said, nothing.
Yeah.
They said, come on, Lena, tell us what we owe them.
Right.
I said, nothing.
Right.
They're going to sort.
Yeah.
Said, well, how did you do that? I said, well, I'm black.
Yeah. Well put. So let me ask you, now you're on the DEI Commission. So at 90, you're still active.
Yes.
You're on the Diversity and Equity Inclusion Commission for the City of Westland. How is that going for you?
It's going well, but we are new.
Right.
We're a year old, a little over a year old. And Westland is, in my area, it's more than predominantly black. It is black.
Yeah.
But we have about 400 homes in our subdivision, and we vote. So Westland hear us when we vote. And so they respect us.
Right.
And we just lost our mayor, Mayor Weil, who was very receptive, was very receptive to us.
Right.
And the police department was very receptive to us. Plus I go to a church in Westland, Gethsemane Missionary Baptist Church. And my pastor, Dr. Duckworth, is very adamant in expressing his views on race.
Right.
So we have done some things from the church, like having the police from Westland come out to talk to us, and so they can hear us too.
Right.
And I think this DEI program is going to be good, because many of it's just like major league teams.
Yeah.
The managers are Caucasian, and the players are basically black.
Yeah.
And Westland shows that same thing. There are very few, if any, major players in the government. In Westland.
Yeah.
But now we have the manager of our DEI is a black man, and we have had one black superintendent, Mac Mayfield.
Okay.
They liked him so well, so they named the golf course after him in Westland. But he fought for us.
Okay. So I got a question for you. I got to ask you this question. How do you stay so young at 90? What's the secret?
Well, I work hard, and I do most of my own work at home.
Okay.
And I worked at Ford 29 years and 2 months.
Yeah.
And my sister and her husband owned a funeral home, Chapel of the Chimes.
Okay.
And I worked there for 19 years after I retired, along with volunteering at Henry Ford Fairlane.
Right.
So I stay busy.
So you stay busy and active.
Yeah. And my mother was 91 when she died.
Really? Wow.
And my father was 79.
Okay.
He died with cancer. But I believe I'm going to make it to be 91 at least.
Yes, yes, and beyond 91.
Yes,
Yes,
I'll take
yes.
whatever God gives me.
Indeed, indeed. Any final comments for our listeners, especially, you know, African American women who are watching you, and your story is incredible. I mean, all the way from Arkansas to where you are now. You've lived a fulfilled life.
I would say to any black female, hold your head up high and be somebody,
Right,
but look down to see where you're going.
right,
Treat people the way you want to be treated.
right,
I learned early in life, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
Yeah.
And I believe that works.
right.
God has blessed me with some genes that have me
Yeah,
still here, still walking.
right,
And most people don't think I'm, until they see some of the wrinkles I have,
right, right.
are 90 years old. But I feel blessed.
Yeah,
And I think hard work in being honest and being a proud black woman helps me.
right.
And it would help any young person.
Right.
And stay in school, get as
Right.
much education as you can get.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for having me.
And again, happy birthday. Happy 90th
Well,
birthday.
thank you. Thank you.
All right. Legendary Lena Nichols from the City of Westland at the age of 90 lived a fulfilled life. Of course, this is part of our Women's History Month series looking at the trailblazing, enduring life of women. We'll be right back.